Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Installation, Finishing, and Maintenance of Wood Floors. We have some brief housekeeping before we start. Your phones are on mute. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box in the corner of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end of today's session, time permitting, or via an email after. And you can always send questions to mapeidigital@mapei.com. We also invite you to visit the Products for Wood Flooring page on our website, www.mapei.com, where we have videos, projects, downloads, and more about installing and caring for wood flooring, all of which happens to be overseen by today's speaker, the business manager for MAPEI's floor covering installation systems product line, Jeff Johnson. Jeff brings to the industry more than 30 years' experience in the development and marketing of floor covering installation products. His practical experience in the construction industry and as a bench chemist give him an insightful perspective on surface preparation, moisture mitigation, and the installation of floor coverings and wood. Some of those insights he'll share with us now. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jen, and welcome everyone. Thank you all for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedules to spend with us as we explore the many options and products that we have in support of the wood floor installation business. One of the more exciting domains that we deal with. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is the desired flooring material for most residential homes. Everybody wants to have it, so we are prepared to deal with prep, bonding, finishing, and maintaining that stuff. So let's jump into it. And by all means, if you have any questions, use the chat box on the side and we'll try to get them at the end. First and foremost, what we are going to try to do during the course of this presentation is to learn how to make sure the subfloor is suitable and prepared properly for wood floors. It's a very important step in the process. It is important for every kind of flooring that we install, but wood is particularly unique. We're going to learn about some best practices for the installation and how to properly select the right adhesive for the conditions in which you're working with or planning to install. We're going to also look at the products that we have available and perhaps the process for how to finish or refinish wood floors. I mean, that is one of the things that I don't want you to forget, that wood floors do wear out over time as people walk on them, and we do have amazing, fantastic products that will bring those things back to life and salvage that investment that you've made way back when. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to maintain those hardwood floors, and again, review all the products we have for that as well, in case you didn't know we had them. So that's the whole goal of today's webinar, and I hope that meets with your expectations as well. So we start off with subfloor prep evaluation, and I think we need to all realize that there are 4 rules for successful wood floor installation. We could replace the word wood with resilient tile, carpet, whatever, but for this particular case, it's wood floor installation. And the 4 rules for sure is that it needs to be clean, smooth and flat, structurally sound, and ideally it needs to be dry. So a little bit more about what that means. The subfloor must be clean. It cannot look like this gymnasium floor that's being pulled up here on the right, but it needs to be clean. It's got to be dust free. All the debris has to be removed. It's got to be free from any curing agents, curing compounds, parting agents, taco sauce, pipe oil, or whatever. All those things have to be removed prior to doing anything with a wood floor installation. And primarily reason why that is these things are all bond breakers. And one thing that I'm going to be talking about throughout the course of this presentation is the nature of wood itself. Wood is a natural product that changes its dimensions with changes in humidity. So it moves, it breathes. It's like a living thing in your house. So, you know, if you're trying to bond something that you know is going to move, you need to make darn good sure that you've got a good proper bond and you're not sticking to something that's just lightly bonded to the concrete. Otherwise, it will break off and you'll wind up with a hollow spot and potentially a claim on that particular project. It's got to be flat. The NWFA, which stands for the National Wood Flooring Association, has a fantastic set of guidelines and rules. You can find them on the nwfa.org website on wood flooring installation. I highly recommend you take a look at that. But they recommend that the floor be 3/16 inch variation in a 10-foot radius. This is the one step I see a lot of people skip, but it's an extraordinarily important process for a variety of different reasons. You need to make sure it's flat, obviously just for aesthetics, but for actual installation as well. If that floor is flat, then you will be able to get certain things properly done. You're going to get the right coverage of your adhesive. You're not going to use installation products to fill gaps and waste your very expensive installation adhesive to fill voids. That's not what we're trying to do here. We want to avoid hollow spots. Think about how these adhesives are applied, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but typically it's done with a 1/4 inch square notch trowel or something similar to that. And that means that the trowel ridge that's left is maybe 3/16 of an inch high. Wonder why that says 3/16 and 10 for the NWFA requirements. And if the floor goes below that 3/16 inch range, like you see in the lower screen, that adhesive is never going to come in contact with the rigid wood flooring that's on top. I guess not unless you put weights or something on top of it, but that's typically not what happens. So what's going to happen is that urethane adhesive or MS adhesive is going to cure. It's not going to be sticky again, and there's no way for anything to bond once your adhesives are done, and you wind up with a hollow spot, a customer complaint, and so on. Certainly being flat and smooth facilitates the placement. All this stuff is tongue and groove. It's got to slide together like Legos, and the flatter the surface is, the easier that's all going to work. And certainly the control adhesive coverage, I think it's important in today's age where installation materials continue to cost more than they did in the past. You want to maintain and ensure that your coverage is the best coverage rate you can get for the type of flooring that you're installing. So smooth and flat is very important. Structurally sound, this should be a no-brainer for all of you in the audience. The floor has to be in good condition. We can't have cracks in the floor. We can't have rotted subboards. Those things have to be addressed prior to any kind of wood floor installation. The dryness, this is the ideal perfect world that most wood floor manufacturers and wood floor flooring manufacturers are striving for, is that they want to have a dry substrate in order to bond it. We all know, or if you don't know, wood and moisture don't get along well together. Now, I guess they do get along. They like to swell, they like to absorb into the wood, and things get to swell and grow, and that's where all the problems occur. So we want to make sure that if you're bonding it directly to a concrete substrate, that the moisture vapor emission rates are less than 3 pounds, the RH levels are are less than 75%. For wood floor installations like plywood or engineered woods or so on and so forth, they need to be in that 12 to 15% moisture range. Again, all this is to try to make sure that we have a balance and a dry condition so that when we do install woods on top of it, it doesn't react poorly. Cleaning it, keeping it clean, obviously is very important here. Sweeping materials up off the floor, using a vacuum to get the dust off the floor is important. If more aggressive means are necessary, grinders and rotary floor machines with sanding heads will help clean off the debris, but it's extraordinarily important that you get all that dust and debris off the floor. All right, so that's all kind of the manual labor stuff. So now we can take a little bit of a time talking about subfloor preparation solutions. And we take a look at wood, for example. Wood, we can directly bond wood flooring to wood underlayments, but you got to make sure certain things are taken care of. All seams need to be sanded so you don't wind up with ridges and expansion peaks at those areas to interfere with the overall bond of the material. I'm going to suggest, and this is kind of, I guess we'll call this Jeff's tip. This is not a necessary requirement for the installation of wood floor, but I'm going to throw this out for discussion for you guys to think about. If you are going to direct bond a wood floor installation to your subfloor, which in this particular case would be a plywood install over a joist system on the ground floor over a crawl space that's been properly covered with plastic so that we don't have any moisture coming up through the floor. But let's just say, for example, you have to replace that floor for some reason, whether the house is sold and somebody doesn't like that particular color wood or that type of wood or wants something else. And that means that wood floor has to be removed and torn out. I would highly recommend, if you're ever going to think about that or consider that, you would apply a sacrificial layer of 1/4-inch plywood on top of your subfloor prior to doing a direct bonding. That way, when it comes time to tear out or remove the floor, you're removing this 1/4-inch material, and sure, you may have a few staple marks in your subfloor below, but it's not something that's going to rip off layer after layer of plywood and have to replace the subfloor itself. So just Jeff's tip, if you're going to direct bond to flooring, you're not sure if it's going to be a permanent forever type thing, I would highly recommend the installation of a 1/4-inch underlayment of some kind to protect your plywood subfloor. Just something to think about. When it comes to prepping concrete or wood, we have two choices to deal with, and there's a specific difference between these two, and I want to make sure we're all clear with that. We do have a variety of skim coats and patches, which we'll talk about in the next slide, and we also have a whole bunch of leveling compounds, self-leveling underlayments. So the difference between these two is the skim coat, as much as we love them, does a great job of smoothing things out. They go over cracks, they go over minor defects, they'll fill in a knot hole, but they basically do the job of smoothing. They do not necessarily make it level. So do keep that in mind when you're looking at your installation. Overall, do I need to level the floor, or do I just need to manage the subfloor defects? So it's something that you need to take a look at. Again, that's back to that 10-foot straight edge with a level on top of it to make sure that you're dealing with something, because skim coats and patches do not level. That's why we have an extensive product offering in the self-leveling line that does a really good job of making sure the floor is not only smooth, but flat and level. So what are those products? Again, then we don't necessarily go through all of this. I think we have a presentation on deck on navigating the vast ocean of self-leveling underlayment options that we have. So I'm just going to ask that you look at this, but we have a variety of patches and skim coats that are available for the skimming, smoothing, and flattening of stuff. And then we have a variety of different self-leveling underlayments. Why you would pick one over the other is very dependent on how long it's going to take for it to cure up or get ready before you can install wood flooring on top of it. That's kind of why the baking picture on the right is that some of these things need some time to cook, lose their moisture before you can get right on it with the wood floor installation. So some of these things have a lot longer cure times, some have shorter cure times, and so on. So it's just something to think about. And obviously they're fast set, slow set, more expensive, less expensive, deeper, thinner, easier flow, variety of different options for you to deal with. But the most critical factor is how long do I have to wait before I can start installing wood on them? So that's something to think about as well. All right, now back to the moisture controller, keeping it dry. As we mentioned before, wood and water do not mix. And we've seen, and I'm sure you have heard of, terrible things happen when a wood floor gets wet. For whatever reason, surface flooding can be part of the problem, massive changes in humidity, leaving the windows open in a rainstorm could also happen from not properly preparing or protecting the wood floor from the moisture vapors coming up from the subfloor beneath the wood floor. Needless to say, what you need to realize is that wood changes dimension with changes in humidity. And there's a lot of information available online. I just wanted to throw you one example here of a red oak. There is information available. You can search for this, the dimensional change coefficient for wood species, and there's a variety of different numbers. So if you change the moisture content of a wood floor, say you install it when everything was moisture level 5 on the pin meters they're dealing with, and the moisture changes, whatever that costs, and it moves up 4%, and the plank width is 5 inches. That means that if I have a room that's 10 inches by 14 inches, 10 by 14 feet in width, that floor could potentially grow 1 3/4 inch in length and 2.5 inches in width. Now, most wood flooring is asking you to put a 3/4 inch gap around the perimeter of the room, which is 1.5 inches, I think, if you add that up for both sides. This particular case, this wood floor would either push out the walls, which we have heard that happen before, or start to buckle in the middle because it's jammed up against the edge of the wall, has no place to go, and it's going to pop up. So it's really important to protect these wood floors from moisture, whether it be ambient humidity changes or coming up from the subfloor conditions. We have some great solutions in the MAPEI product line to deal with this as a separate item, depending upon what the moisture levels are in your concrete slab or in your plywood deck, as far as that goes as well. So Planaseal MSP, which hopefully you are all aware of, is a great mid-range performing product that handles things up to 15 pounds of MVER and 99% RH. Simple 2-coat application, water-based material, easy to apply, red color, so you know you're getting the proper coating. It needs a porous slab to function properly, and we do require an underslab moisture vapor barrier be underneath it for complete warranty protection. Other products that we have that work well for the wood adhesive line, although some of them might be a bit more heavy duty commercial, Planaseal VS and VS Fast are 2-part epoxies. They are the ultimate moisture protector. Highly recommended for use with wood floor installations, particularly with urethane adhesives, works great with that. Would not recommend the use of epoxy coating materials like this underneath our MS adhesives. I'll explain to you that a little bit about that later on. But Planaseal PMB is a one-component, excuse me, one-component moisture-cured urethane moisture barrier that works extraordinarily well with both our urethane and MS adhesives. As a matter of fact, I like to think of this as the silver bullet for moisture control for all wood flooring installation products, and we'll talk about that at length a little bit later on, perhaps when we talk about system builds. But this product goes on very easily, pours out on the floor, roll it on with a 3-inch snap roller. The floor needs to be porous. You need to put a thin coat down, but once you apply 1 coat of PMB to the floor, then you can direct bond all of our urethane or MS adhesives on top of it and get full protection of 25-pound, 100% levels for wood installation. Again, it's a easy product to apply and highly recommended for use. If you take a look at the chart for our moisture control lineup, Planaseal MSP does require 2 coats. It takes about 6 to 8 hours in total to apply. Planaseal PMB will give you that 25-pound, 100% if you use it in conjunction with one of our urethane or MS adhesives. 1 coat takes about 2 hours to dry, so that's pretty cool. You can use this with 2 coats and broadcasts for a moisture control membrane for self-leveling underlayments and any other application as well. That 2nd coat takes a little bit more time to dry, about 4 hours, and then you're off and going. Planaseal VS is, as I mentioned before, that gold standard for moisture control. Does take a while to install, but does take about 8 to 9 hours to cure out. And Planaseal VS is about half that time. So those are the options you have if you want a standalone moisture control solution for your wood installation. Having said that, we do have some adhesives in our line that are moisture controllers and bonders in the same bucket, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to highly recommend that everybody take a look at Planaseal PMB as a great solution insurance policy for moisture protection for wood floors going forward. All right, so let's take now a look at some of our wood floor bonding solutions. We now have a floor that's prepped, hopefully smooth, flat, and level. We have it moisture controlled, and we're ready to start gluing wood floors down. And the way I like to think about this is to bundle them into, I think, 3 different categories. First category we have are the safe zone material. These are our adhesives that work well on concrete slabs or plywood decks that are dry. That magical unicorn level, if you will, of 3 pounds or 5 pounds moisture vapor emission rate, 75 to 80% RH. So an aged slab properly dry. And there we have a couple of urethane adhesives that work extremely well for that. Eco 975 is one component polyurethane adhesive, moisture cured, but it's a lightweight version. So this bucket, a 5-gallon pail, weighs approximately 46 to 47 pounds compared to our Eco 980, which is our workhorse for wood floor insulation. And this is probably our #1 seller for wood floor installations in North America. This one is not a lightweight formulation. It's a true 100% solids material. Weighs about 70 to 72 pounds per gallon, so it's a little bit heavier. But both of these are fantastic products. Both work extraordinarily well for engineered and solid and domestic hardwoods. I think Eco 975 and 980 have the same positioning. They may not, 975 might not be working for exotics. We can go back and look at that if you need to know that for sure. We'll deal with that. But 980 does all these things. Then we have the next category of adhesives that, as I mentioned before, are dual function. They provide moisture vapor barrier properties as well as bonding into a single step. That means you don't need to apply a moisture vapor barrier unless you want that extra guarantee. We have 2 products in this category that do this type of work. The first one is an MS, a modified silane. That's what MS stands for when you hear people talk about that, MS, a modified silane material. Again, modified silanes are very, very similar to polyurethanes in their composition, except they have a different curing mechanism. They both react with moisture, but in the case of a modified silane, it's a trimethoxysilane functional unit versus an isocyanate type function unit. So they both react with moisture in the air. When a MS adhesive reacts with moisture in the air, it does not off-gas CO2 like a urethane does. It releases a couple of molecules of methane in the process of that, nothing to even be worried about. But the urethanes, on the other hand, if you get them in a highly wet environment, can actually foam up and gas. A lot of CO2 is generated in the process, something to think about as well. But back to the 983, this one is good up to 12 pounds, I believe, MVER and 95% RH. So it's a mid-range material. Again, requires that you do test your slabs for moisture vapor emission rates prior to the installation to make sure it's suitable for use. If any of those numbers, the 15 to the 95, are higher than that, this product should not be used, or you need to combine that with a Planet-Seal PMB, and then you can go ahead and do it. One nice thing about MS adhesives, and I will mention this, is that they are very easy to clean up. That when I mean clean up, they mean clean up on top of the surface of the pre-finished flooring. Urethane adhesives are notorious for grabbing onto the finishes of pre-finished hardwoods. A lot of times the pre-finished hardwood material coating is a urethane coating, a UV curable, E-beam curable UV coating, and urethanes love other urethanes. MS adhesives, on the other hand, don't have the same affinity for those urethane coatings. Therefore, they're a lot easier to clean off, even if they're cured out. Urethanes, on the other hand, do need to make sure you clean them up before you walk away. Otherwise, it can lock onto the surface of that material and in some cases etch the actual finish. 977 is a new one we've introduced recently. I'm sorry that we now have 3 mid-range, my best mistake. Eco 977 is a somewhat of a lightweight formulation material. It's in a 4-gallon bucket as well and works up to, I believe, 12 pounds and 95% RH as well. So a similar positioning as Eco 983. The other advantage of 977 is very fast setting material. It cures up within about 2 hours after application. So if you're trying to do a fast track installation or maybe even working on a starter row and you want to get something locked down in place, 977 is an excellent product for that application. Again, the mid-range moisture limits, combine it again with a single coat of Planet-Seal PMB and you have full boat moisture protection and fast setting. Another great product and highly recommended for you to take a look at as well. Again, the critical success factors for any of these adhesives that are moisture controlling products is that they need to be installed exactly according to the instructions. We need to create, in all cases, 100% monolithic layer when we install the wood flooring into it. So products like 983, for example, come with trowel clips that help you achieve that. 977 does not, but there are some very specific trowel requirements in there that make sure you do that. I believe 977 uses a sawtooth notch trowel that creates peaks that once you squish the wood flooring into it, the peaks smash together and create that uniform layer. But again, think about what we're trying to create here. We're trying to create a moisture barrier membrane. And really the only way to do that is to make sure that that is 100% covered. We almost always, the problems that we associate with these kinds of adhesive when a claim has to be evaluated, there was a gap in the adhesive application somewhere, which allowed the moisture in the concrete to move upwards. So it's very important to do that. And again, one of Jeff's tricks or Jeff's tips here is that when you are installing wood flooring using moisture control adhesive, we always like to or recommend that you trowel those adhesive perpendicular to the pattern of the wood flooring. That way, when you push things together, number one, you're not getting glue squished up between the tongue and groove, which can be a real problem for cleanup and proper placement. But it also helps you make sure that you get that 100% coverage to the back of the wood flooring as well. We now have the third category of bonding solutions, which are not only wood bonders, not only are they moisture control materials, but they also provide some semblance of of acoustic dampening properties. The first one in this category is Eco 985. Again, another MS adhesive that we have had in the product portfolio for quite a while. This one, in terms of moisture control, is the 25-pound 100% level. So it is a full boat moisture protector as well as a bonder, but has acoustic dampening properties available for it as well. Our technical data sheet has all this information available to you on the back pages of the material. It's important to note, and I want to make sure we're clear on this, is that the acoustic properties that we've evaluated here are oftentimes very dependent on the flooring material that we use to do the testing. In this particular case, 985 was installed using some 3/4 inch pre-finished red oak flooring material. And that's one of the reasons why the delta may be a 17, where it might have been a little bit higher with a softer wood. It could have been a little bit lower with a harder wood. So something to keep in mind when you look at acoustic properties. A lot of it is very dependent on the thickness of the concrete, as well as the type of the wood structure that's there. Having said that, it does offer some acoustic properties and will allow you to get to that targeted 50 STC and IIC level that many building code requirements deal with. So again, 985, one of our easy cleanup products, comes in a plastic 4-gallon pail, and it's something that I highly recommend that you take a look at as well. The next product we have in the line is Eco 995, and this is again another one of our flagship urethane materials. This is a 1-component moisture curing 100% solids urethane that provides that bonding characteristic that's needed for all types of wood flooring. It's moisture curing, and it has an acoustic dampening properties as well. Again, the acoustic tests that were run were done on an accredited lab, and our technical data sheet contains all that information on the back of the chart going forward. So if you need that information, do take a look at it. Okay, so again, for adhesives in this domain, whether it be for acoustic properties or moisture barrier properties, it's extremely important that you follow the directions to how to install it. You use the correct trowel notch for the material. You certainly got to make sure that you get the correct coverage per square foot with this material. And in order to achieve this moisture control and acoustic properties that we're promoting with these products, you've got to make sure your coverage is in that 30 to 40 square feet per gallon range. That means a 5-gallon bucket of material, 150 to 200 square feet maximum coverage on these materials. Do not try to spread that any thinner. Do not try to extend that coverage rate, because then you will be jeopardizing the overall performance of the adhesive and wind up with claims associated with moisture control or not the acoustic properties you need to. So you need to make sure you've got 100% coverage. One last adhesive that's not a glue and not something you trowel out, but I do want you all to be aware that this is available in the product line, and that's called MAPEI Contact SRT. SRT stands for Sound Reduction Tape, and this is a foam tape, approximately 1/8 of an inch thick, I believe the answer is, or 1/16 of an inch thick. Sorry about that. Double-sided, high-performance acrylic tape that provides extraordinarily high acoustic properties, very much sound dampener. You'll see the delta IICs are in that 24 to 27 range. That's incredible when it comes to achieving STCs and IICs of 52, 53, 55 going forward. Again, all this information is available on the MAPEI Contact SRT technical data sheet. Installation of this product is a little different than you might imagine a trowel down glue floor. As you can see in this installation, we're actually working on installing the wood flooring on top of a release liner. Once the wood flooring is all pushed together and put together in its proper shape, that release liner is pulled out from underneath the planks and it all drops into the adhesive bed. To try to do this in the traditional method by opening up all the sticky surface and trying to install wood floor plank on top of sticky stuff that doesn't want to move is very, very, well, it's impossible. So you'd need to kind of work off the release liner, place all your planks, and then once that's done, pull the release liner out from underneath it and off you go. Now there are phenomenal advantages for using MAPEI Contact MRT for this stuff. It has, in a sense, an infinite working time. So once you cover the floor with this stuff, as long as that blue release liner is still in place and intact, it's not going to change the open time conditions of the adhesive underneath it. Even if you left it open, the big problem you're dealing with is dust collection, because it's extraordinarily sticky and tacky. It's freeze-thaw stable. This not that it's terribly concerning for urethanes or MS adhesives. We don't want you to freeze them, but this product could be stored in an unacclimated environment and it's not going to have any impact in it as well. It has an operating temperature range also of negative degrees up to temperatures probably above boiling. The other tremendous advantage of MAPEI Contact SRT is its instant usability. Once this plank is installed and release liner pulled out from underneath it, it's entirely okay to walk on it, to put the grand piano back on it, the furniture back on it, open up the doors and let people walk on it immediately. This is where you would probably want to protect an MS or urethane-based adhesive from foot traffic for a period of 5 to 6 to 8 hours as that urethane or MS cured. This kind of stuff is ready for instant functionality. It is a moisture barrier product in itself and matches the moisture vapor emission rates of our 995 or 985, good for 25 pounds and 100% RH, just no standing water. So the other advantage of it is it's not something you would need an SDS on the job site. It's a tape article. It's like a hammer. Hammers don't necessarily have to have SDSs on the job site. It's because there's nothing that's curing, nothing that's reacting, nothing that has to evaporate, nothing that has to dry. Anyway, so you get the general gist of it. And the last thing is everything is recyclable. The blue liner can be put in a recycle bin for plastics, and the cardboard core that this is on can be recycled as well. So huge amounts of benefits. I just wanted to make sure you're all aware of that as an option as well. And in light of today's raw material issues and crises that we have in getting material out the door, we do have this in stock and it's ready to go immediately. The must-have accessories, like any fashionista that's out there, there are certain things that you might want to add to the offering, and we have those as well. We'll start with MAPEIUSA RM, one of the products that we offer for acoustic dampening. If you really want to get a good system going, we have MAPEIUSA RM in a variety of different thicknesses, I believe 2 millimeter, 5 millimeter, 10 millimeter, with great acoustic properties. These can be installed quite easily using urethane adhesives to provide enhanced acoustic properties where you really need it, like multi-family housing, condo projects, and so on and so forth. Anywhere where you need to make sure you've got really good acoustic properties in place, we highly recommend the use of MAPEIUSA RM. Another accessory, which is a must-have that you should make sure is in your toolkit and available for use on any given project, is a cartridge grade MS adhesive called Eco 907. This is another one, a very fast curing material. It sets up in about 2 hours. This was actually designed for the installation of tack strip on concrete substrates in areas where you would otherwise have to drill holes and put nails in, which is extraordinarily time consuming and tedious. You can use Eco 907 to bond the tack strip to the concrete, and within 2 hours after cure process, you can put carpet on it and stretch it with a power stretcher and nothing's going to move. So it's that kind of bond strength. For the wood floor category, great product for stair noses, for repairs, for starter rows, or anything else that you might want to look at. It is available in 3 different packages at present, in 10.5 ounce cartridges like you see on the screen, 29.5 ounce cartridges or quart size cartridges for bigger projects. We also have it in a 20 ounce foil wrap sausage for sausage gun type application. Again, fast curing, easy repair, easy cleanup. It's that MS based adhesive as well, and works very well for that kind of stuff. So don't forget that we have that available as well. And one thing that I'm going to always recommend you have, no matter what product you're working with, MS or urethane, is to have a urethane adhesive remover on hand. I don't care how good you are, and there are a lot of good installers out there, trust me, but every once in a while you're going to get your little finger dipped in the glue, and that's going to wind up getting on the surface of the wood flooring. By all means, certainly hit that with a white rag to start with, white cotton rag, but if that stays there a little bit too long, I would highly recommend the use of Ultrabond urethane cleaner. This is a great product, has a great solution for removing adhesive residues on the surface of the wood flooring. Again, we have a window, folks, that urethane adhesive removers will work to try to remove urethanes from the surface of the wood flooring. And that sometimes is in that 8 to 12 hour range. Anything beyond that, you're maybe looking at a little bit more energy installed into trying to remove dried adhesive residue on the surface of wood flooring, particularly urethanes, not the MS, but urethanes for sure. I will tell you a funny story about adhesive remover calls I get from customers on the phone. I had a customer call me once and asked me if I had an adhesive cleaner for urethanes. I said, yes, of course, we have it in quart buckets right now, ready for sale. The gentleman sheepishly asked me, do you sell it in 5-gallon containers? I said, oh my God, no, you didn't. And unfortunately, he had a situation where I'm not sure whether it was a pet or something else that got into the glue and walked all over the surface of the floor, and it was a massive, massive disaster. Please make sure you clean up properly while you're doing that. All right, one product category that hopefully you know about, but if you didn't, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. Wood floor is gorgeous, and there are a variety of ways to install it. By direct gluing, as we mentioned in the last half of this presentation, or nail down direct to wood substrates, which is, I guess, I hate to say this, the more common method as well. So wood floor does get nailed down and we don't use any glue to install it. But that kind of wood flooring is typically not pre-finished and needs to be finished on site once it's been installed. We have an expansive line of materials designed for finishing or refinishing existing hardwood floors. So let's take a moment to talk about that. We start off with a prep product, if you will, just like we have prep for concrete and wood substrates in the form of cement-based patches. We have a product called Ultracoat Aqua Plus. This is a very interesting product in the fact that it mixes with the sawdust fines that you generate during the sanding process and creates a filler for the cracks and voids in the wood floor installation made of the same wood that the wood floor is made of. So there's no need to color match. There's no need to worry about trying to find the right material to match the wood flooring you're using. You're actually using that wood floor to create your patch. It mixes very easily, a variety of different thicknesses you can go. It dries very quickly. The only recommendation we have for you here, and this is primarily for oak flooring material. Oak and stainless steel, oak and steel have a tendency to pop tannins and turn different colors. But if you're going to use this kind of a filler, we recommend that you use a plastic or stainless steel tool to apply. Otherwise, you'll wind up changing the material color, and that's not something you want to have happen. Again, if you're not familiar with the wood floor installation process, a typical wood floor finisher will sand the entire floor and then fill it to deal with all the gaps and butt seams that didn't get tight to prepare it for the finishing process. So that's what Aqua Plus is all about. Then we come to sealing it. Okay, I don't know if any of you have ever worked with wood yourself or done a craft project where you need to paint something made out of wood. It's almost always more than a single coat of material applied to a virgin wood material. The reason for that is, particularly when you're using water-based coatings, that the water from the initial coat that you're applying is going to absorb into the wood cells and cause it to swell, and you get a little bit of popping, and you actually wind up with a rougher surface than you may have started with. I mean, I've done a lot of this stuff myself on various different projects, and I get something super smooth, and then I put the first coat of sealer on top of it and run my hand across it. It's got all sorts of bumps into it. It's like, what the heck's going on? And what's going on is that function where the water from the sealer is absorbed into the wood, causes it to micro splinter, if you will, and so on and so forth. So that's why we have a variety of products, which are basic products just that are sealers to seal the finish of the wood floor. The first one we have is a one component sanding sealer. And this is a material that you apply. It's like a primer, if you will, for drywall that helps get you through that process where the initial water-based coating is going to absorb into the wood floor, pop up and do its little spiky business. And then once this is dry, you come back over it with a floor machine, which is those stand-up rotating machines with a pad on the bottom of it to smooth out that roughness. And so that gives you now a nice, smooth, non-porous surface to allow you to build finish coats on top of it to increase the depth of the finish. So that's the first product we have in that offering for that. The next one we have is a premium base, and this would become, I mean, the better category. Universal base is the good, and this is the better. Premium base is a two-part system. So what we're getting here is a higher solids build. It's going to be cross-linked with an isocyanate cross-linker, so it's got tremendous durability. So if you're going for a high-end, high-performance application where you want to make sure this stuff lasts forever, the premium base is a great solution to use. Again, both the universal base and premium base are water clear. In other words, they are like glass when they're applied. They do not add to or contribute to any of the color of the wood flooring. May have a slight enhancement, but not necessarily going to change it. We do have the third base in the line called toning base, and this one actually does enhance the actual overall wood floor appearance. A little bit of history for you. The wood floor finishing business, even till today, has done an awful lot with oil modified polyurethane materials or solvent based stuff or oil based stuff. Not necessarily all that compliant with today's VOC requirements, but a lot of people like it. And the reason why they do it is because it's fast drying and it changes the color of the wood. It adds kind of a honey tone to the wood. It penetrates into the surface of the wood and creates that 3D dimensional effect that you can't necessarily get with water-based finishes. Toning base is the water-based offset or offer, if you will, to creating that enhanced look that you would get with an oil modified polyurethane. So we do have a solution for those of you who want to use a water-based coating system for your wood floor, which is fast drying and VOC compliant and does a great job, non-inflammable, doesn't kick people out of the house, and it's called toning base. Again, this is a two-part system, an isocyanate cured material, so it's very durable, but definitely an enhancer. So if it were me and I was installing a walnut floor or a hickory floor or any of these kinds of floors with a tremendous amount of character into it, I would be reaching for the toning base product because it's going to pop that grain that you paid extra money for. So now the floor has been prepped, the gaps are filled, the sanding sealers have been applied. Then we come on with the final coat, which is the finishing material. And here we have three different product offerings in three different gloss levels. We begin with Ultracoat Easy. This is a one-component aliphatic polyurethane latex material. Comes in a matte, semi-gloss, or satin finish. I said those out of order, but you get the idea, 10, 30, or 60 gloss. It is provided in 5-gallon pails only. So this is our price fighter, builder grade, if you will, wood floor finish that does a great job for providing a nice wood floor finish. Good durability, fast drying, and comes in 5-gallon pails. Then we begin with Easy Plus. And Easy Plus is a higher solids material. Again, a one-component polyurethane, aliphatic polyurethane, which means it's UV resistant material. Also available in matte, satin, and semi-gloss sheen levels. And does a great job for light residential and light commercial applications for wood floor finishing. Again, fast drying, VOC compliant, excuse me, and so on. The last one we have in the product offering for finishing is a 2-component water-based polyurethane wood floor finish. And again, whenever you see 2-component polyurethane coatings, you're looking for materials that are going to give you the highest performance level, the highest traffic resistance. So when you're making your selection on which floor finish to use, you need to analyze the conditions in which the floor is going to be exposed. If it's a retail environment like a shopping center or some sort of a main street environment where there's a lot of foot traffic that goes in and out of the building, I would highly recommend you choose a 2-component system for that because it will have enhanced durability. If you're dealing with single family housing, just a couple with no pets and socks worn most of the time, the Ultracoat Easy might be the right solution to go to as well. So again, those are some of the decision factors that you would make when you're selecting one finish over another. We also have a couple of unique wood floor finishes specific for the sport environment, and one of those is called Ultracoat Gym and Ultracoat Gym Pro, which we'll tell you a little bit about here in a second. But these are all approved by the Maple Flooring Manufacturers Association for indoor basketball, racquetball, other kind of badminton courts, if you will, volleyball courts, anything that's a wood floor coating, or anything that's a wood floor in a sport environment, Ultracoat Gym can be used. It is a high gloss, high build material, extremely high durability. And one of the things that come with this MFMA approval is a lot of stuff, including slip resistance, including sweat resistance, moisture resistance, stain resistance, and so on. So these are really high performance solutions, again, offered in only one gloss level at this point in time. Gym Pro is Ultracoat Gym on steroids, and actually that's kind of not too far away from the truth. Ultracoat Gym has a part B which can be added, which is an aziridine crosslinker, which enhances the overall durability of the material and helps speed the finish of the material as well. So two choices for indoor gyms, again, both approved by the MFMA and available for viewing on their website as well. Lastly, and if I still have some of your time, we have an interesting group of products that can turn this into that in 4 easy steps without necessarily bringing in the sanding machine. And again, one thing you need to keep in mind is that, as I said before, wood floors do wear out over time. How long that is depends on how many coats of finish were on there, the nature of the finish type. But generally speaking, the industry rule of thumb is that a wood floor kind of needs to be refinished every 7 to 10 years, just because things wear out, traffic wears out, scratches, chairs move, dogs scratching it, and so on and so forth. Traditional methodologies for that step is that the wood floor finisher comes to your house, moves all of your furniture out of the building, brings in his sanders, his corner sanders, his grinders, whatever else, and then brings that wood floor back to its original form, which takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. It can restain it again at that point, and then goes through the entire installation process. Well, if everything is pretty much okay, except the finish may be a little bit worn, we have a series of products called the Ultracoat ReNewIt system, which allow you to prepare, clean, and prime any floor that's out there for a secondary coating of material without having to go through the sanding, the scraping, the staining, and so on and so forth. It's a very user-friendly project and something to keep in mind as you look at people that want to refinish their hardwood floors. You have a choice. You can go with the Ultracoat ReNewIt system, which can be done basically in a day, or you can deal with the traditional methods, which are labor intensive, dusty, dirty, sand, and take a lot longer. The products involved in here are Ultracoat ReNewIt Remover. Now think about your floor that's in your home right now that's got who knows what's on it. Everything from simple green to somebody else's wax and polish, once and done, who named what you've got on it. But a lot of times people are maintaining their floors by putting some sort of wax or sealer or something on top of it to try to keep it clean. We need to remove all that, because that is just like a curing compound or a bond breaker on a concrete slab. We need to get down to something that we can bond to that's not going to release under traffic. So ReNewIt Remover is ready to use. Simply pour it out on the floor with a floor machine with a white pad to braid this stuff into it. This loosens up all the dirt, the junk, the coatings, the waxes, the polishes off of your original floor and gets it very clean. Once that's done, it's can be pulled up with a wet vacuum or a mop system. And then we follow that step, since we don't want to have any kind of that's a very aggressive cleaner. We need to make sure that a very aggressive cleaner is removed before we do anything else. So then we have a ReNewIt cleaner. And this product is also ready to use. You spritz this on the floor, use a microfiber felt pad, and this helps remove any residues and make sure the floor is squeaky clean prior to the installation of the next step. And you'll actually notice this. When you get to this step of the floor and you're walking across it with your foot, you will actually get to that squeak step because the floor is that clean. Okay, and again, it leaves no residue. The next step is that we have to deal with is the installation of a primer. And the ReNewIt primer system is 2 parts. Again, it's an isocyanate type cure. But what it does is it gets past what that floor was previously finished with so that we can put something new on it. This makes all floors equal to Ultracoat wood floor finishes. Bonds to virtually everything from acrylics to urethanes to oil modified polyurethanes to other existing water-based coatings and so on and so forth. Super aggressive, super tight bond. This is what you have to do prior to your next step. And this goes on very quickly, dries within a couple hours, and then you're ready to put the final step. And we always recommend in this particular case to finish this installation using our 2-part product called HT2K. I apologize, this image has not been updated yet. The product's name is actually HT2K, a 2-part isocyanate cured polyurethane coating. And that one we actually have in 4 different gloss levels, which begins with 0 gloss or natural, 10, 30, and 60 gloss respectively, okay? The ReNewIt process, again, in terms of timing, takes a couple hours to get the floor clean. The primer takes about an hour, and then the 1 coat of HT2K takes about 6 hours to cure before you can get some traffic on it. So that's basically a 1-day process where you look at traditional flooring where you have to spend all that time to move the furniture and get the floor sanded to virgin wood. If you're going to stain it, that's going to add another 5 to 6 hours of dry time. Base coats take time. And then finishes take time. So all of that is a massive consumer of time, energy, and labor. Highly recommend the ReNewIt process. Lastly, and I told you up front that we were going to have a lot of stuff to talk about in this particular domain, is once all the floor is installed, once the floor is finished, now we have to keep it clean. And whatever you do, do not clean your wood floor with the picture that looks just like what you're looking on the screen. If you do, I will scream at you bloody murder. Do you want to use as less amount of water as possible? I threw this in there as a joke. Please do not use a wet mop like this to clean your wood floors. Not a good idea. Why? Because wood and water love each other, and they're just going to swell up, and you're going to wind up with crowns and cups and peaks and all sorts of stuff. So please don't do that. So we do have cleaners. Again, these are almost commercial grade materials, for lack of a better description. The Ultracoat Universal Cleaner is a concentrated material. Add a little bit of it to a gallon of water, mist it on the floor, or use a damp mop to clean your floor. Does a great job of cleaning up everyday dirt and debris without leaving any kind of residue on the floor. Great for everyday routine cleaning, once a week, once every other day, however you want to do it, and a fresh lemon scent. That's always nice to walk into a room that's got a clean floor. We also have a few water-based polishes. And again, these are not the same thing as HT2K, Ultracoat Easy Plus, or Ultracoat Easy. These are temporary, if you will, polished materials that will help you maintain the overall look of the floor as time goes by. They're easy to apply. They're concentrated solutions. Again, a little bit of material in a gallon bucket, microfiber on the floor is very nice to help improve the overall gloss. And a clean polish is going to leave a semi-gloss finish on the surface. That's cool if you have a semi-gloss or some kind of a gloss floor, but if you have a matte finish, you paid for matte finish, you might not want a glossy surface on your floor, and that's why we have Ultracoat Clean WPM. And I know a lot of people want to know, what the heck does WPM stand for? And that stands for Wood Polish Matte. So now you've learned something about what WPM stands for, but it does the same thing as the Ultracoat polish. It does give you a little bit of a protective layer on top of your wood floor, but leaves it in a matte finish. So it's, if you enjoyed the low gloss look of your floor, you would want to use the WPM to deal with that. And lastly, we do have a product called Ultracoat Polish Remover. Again, over time, as you continue to add layers of Ultracoat polish or Ultracoat polish WPM, it's going to get to a point where you're going to need to clean that and get back to zero again. That's where Ultracoat Polish Remover will help you out. And that's added to water put on the floor, softens up all the finishes, you clean that up, get back to the universal cleaner, and then come back with the polishes again on top of it. So again, that's how it all works. So we've got a bunch of stuff. We've gone everywhere from getting the subfloor smooth, flat, and level to making sure it's all clean and pretty for years after it's installed. So how does this all go together? And we're getting close to the end of the time. Just a couple of quick looks on how we could build this stuff. Again, a system build, a residential engineered wood on an elevated subfloor. I go back to that option, Jeff's tip, of adding that 1/4 inch underlayment nailed or stapled to this main subfloor. That protects your investment in your subfloor as a sacrificial surface if you ever have to remove it. Ultrabond Eco 975, great product for installing engineered wood flooring, lightweight, easy to move, urethane performance. Then 907 to handle any kind of insets or special pieces or stair nosing. And of course, always keep your urethane cleaner at hand so you don't have any smudges left on the floor. A residential bamboo flooring on concrete flooring. Not that bamboo is that critical these days. I apologize. I don't see that much being installed these days, but it is still out there. We highly recommend the use of Eco 985 for that. That one is a complicated explanation. Oops, sorry, I don't know what's happening here. Sorry, what's happening? Yeah, remember what I told you about urethane adhesives have a tendency to foam when they are exposed to moisture. My apologies, folks. I hope I'm still here. I'm just going to move on. Anyway, let's just get to this point, and I'm going to open it. I'm sorry what was happening on the presentation there for a moment, so and I'm running out of my time. I'm going to open it back up to Jen and see if we have any questions from the audience.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, that was strange. I don't know. Gremlins, I guess, got in at the end.
Gremlins.
Always something.
My time was up. Exactly.
Exactly. They got that the hook. Always something with these live webinars. That's just the fun of a live performance, right?
Yep.
Well, we don't have any questions at the moment, but usually they come rolling in afterwards when people digest what they've heard and start thinking. So if there are any questions after we say goodbye, you can please send them to MAPEIDigital@mapei.com, and I will be sure to get them to Jeff. And like I said, also we invite you to check out the wood products page at www.mapei.com, because this information is housed there, and there's a lot more information, believe it or not, that will augment this. There's videos, downloads. It's all in the purview of Mr. Johnson, so it's great, fabulous stuff. So with that, I thank you, Jeff, for this presentation. It's wonderful, and we will be posting it very shortly. And we thank everybody for joining us. We know that days are very full, so we appreciate you taking time out of yours to spend some time with us. Thank you. Until next time, bye.